I am so sorry. I know that if you're watching this video that your husband's probably just walked out and it is causing you such pain on so many levels, physically, mentally, emotionally. And in these situations, it can be very, very confusing about what to actually do. Do you fight for the marriage? Do you back off? Do you go no contact? Do you keep pushing? What do you actually do? Well, in today's video, I'm going to talk through a few steps that you need to engage in moving forward in order to be able to not only maximize your chances of saving this marriage, but ultimately get the best outcome that you're really looking for. But also to make sure that you're in the best space mentally and emotionally, navigating yourself through a really difficult time. Now, before I dive in, make sure you hit that subscribe button below and click on that bell notification as well, as every week you get access to my latest videos where I talk more about what you can do to go about saving your marriage, what you can do to heal from infidelity, and really learn about male psychology at much deeper levels so that you can go about creating the most extraordinary relationship or marriage possible. Now, it's important to note, before I explain these steps, each marriage, each relationship is very different. There are different circumstances, you've got different people involved, different behaviors and so on. But there are patterns and there are general rules that we want to make sure that we apply as much as possible. And there are some instances where reconciliation absolutely occurs, and there are some instances where both parties kind of decide that this is not really the right marriage for them. But what we need to do is make sure we're going through the respective process and taking advantage of the best steps possible to ensure that we're maximizing our chances of saving the marriage or walking away if that's the best thing for both of you. Now, the first step that you want to take is to make sure that you reflect on the relationship or marriage, and in particular, core fundamental values. See, you have to take the time that you've got. If he's walked out, you want to utilize that time effectively. And part of that is not only allowing yourself to move through the emotions that you're experiencing, but take the time to do a bit of a stock take. Really look back on the relationship or marriage and observe how things unfolded. You know, obviously at the start of any relationship, it's always wonderful and there's that honeymoon period, and then we slowly get into the grind of it, if you like. And for a lot of individuals, that means that one person's off doing something, another person's doing another thing, you're just kind of flying through the night. There's no real connection at a deeper level. There's not a lot of depth in terms of connection. And as a result of that, it's sort of almost that they're both just coexisting, but they're not really a partnership. They're not going into depth. And then suddenly there's this moment where he says, well, I'm done. We haven't been connected for a long time. And because that's something that's been taken away from you, you want to hold on to it. You want to cling on to it, because at the end of the day, as human beings, we want to hold on to what we're familiar with. But even if we're familiar with something, there's a good chance that it may not necessarily be actually helping us. It may not be serving us. It may not be providing us with any real joy at the deepest level. So we've got to take the time to not only look at how the relationship unfolded and what were some of the things that you could have done better, what were some of the things that he could have done better, and so on, and try to improve on those. But you want to take the time to actually look at each other's fundamental values. And you can do that within yourself to start with. You can look at what is most important to me in life and write down a list of those things. You know, is love the most important thing in your life? Is success the most important thing in your life? Is feeling accepted the most important thing? Is feeling significant to him the most important? Is it about serving and giving and caring for each other? That's the most important thing. And when you're going through this process, identify what is most important operationally, not what you want it to be. Like, I know that if I asked you right now what's the most important thing in your life, you're probably going to tell me it's going to be, well, I want to be loved, or, you know, I want to have a special relationship where we're both loving to each other, or I want joy, or I want peace, and so on. And that's fine. That's what a lot of people will go for. But how do you live operationally is really, really important. Like, I wanted love for many years, but what I really wanted at a deeper level was more around, I wanted to be accepted by other people. And once I felt accepted, or I felt successful enough, or I felt significant enough, then I would experience the love, because I'd met that criteria. So we want to look at how do we function operationally, and be really, really honest with yourself as well. There are going to be times where your brain goes, oh, no, I'm not like that, or I'm not like this, or whatever. But you want to go with what instinctively comes up for you. And then take the time to sort of think about, okay, well, based on how he operates, what is most important to him? And you want to see if there is any kind of alignment there in terms of values, or if you guys are completely different individuals. And if you guys operate in very different ways, then sometimes him walking away can actually be the catalyst towards allowing yourselves to go on different paths and ultimately create a better future for the both of you. And I know that's really hard to hear right now, and I'm not saying you have to do anything about it right now, but I think it's a really important exercise to go through, to take some time to look at the past, look at who you guys are fundamentally in terms of your values and so on, and then move forward from there. Now, it's not just about those values that I talked about, but it's actually about behaviors that are important to recognize as well. So for example, if your husband has been someone that has been cheating on you regularly over the last 5, 10, 15, 20 years, then what that is an illustration of is that he doesn't have the integrity that he needs to in order to actually create a quality relationship with you. So this is where it's about elevating your own worth and saying, well, for me, integrity is really important, but for him, it doesn't seem like it's actually important. Is this something that's going to be sustainable for us long term? And I think it's important to ask some of those deeper questions as well around that. Now, this leads me to the second point, which is all around focusing on your own individual healing and transformation as a person. You see, when a husband walks out, naturally that creates a huge amount of pain. But it also presents a real opportunity to say, you know what? I have put myself last or second or third or whatever over a period of time in my life. I put the kids first, I put the husband first, and so on. This is an opportunity for me to start prioritizing myself, to making sure that I'm actually important in my own life. Of course, you're going to be there for your kids and so on, but taking some time throughout the day, whether it be morning or evening, to do some self-reflection, but also to identify what are the areas that I also need to improve in as a person. You know, do I need to recognize that I have some deeper wounds inside of me? In other words, maybe I've felt inadequate over the years. Maybe I haven't felt like I've had the courage to follow my passion and embark on a journey where I can actually live my dreams and so on. Maybe I've tolerated certain behaviors from him because I just didn't want to lose him, or I've been so used to being treated poorly, maybe as a child or, you know, in my teenage years and so on, and so this is just very normal to be treated poorly. And if we are observing those kind of patterns, that is the indicator that, okay, we need to try and evolve ourselves. You need to try and focus on your own healing and your own transformation as a person. And that means recognizing that you are enough just as you are, that you are an amazing soul, that we all came into this world pure love, but we learnt fear. We learnt some of these negative programmings over the years as a defense mechanism. That's not a criticism to anyone. That is because when we're in pain as a young child, we're going to adapt and figure out ways to survive. Unfortunately though, sometimes those survival tendencies and techniques don't serve us long term. And so it creates more pain, but it's done in a very kind of insidious and a very subtle way as well. So really take the time to promote more of that self-care for you. Thirdly, it's important to actually respect the space that your husband is actually requesting at this moment in time. Now, if you are in a position where you've got kids, the chances are that you're still going to have to communicate about the kids and so on. And I think it's actually good in some respects to, you know, maintain some of that civil communication about the kids, but give yourselves the opportunity to actually really heal from within and create some of those shifts on the inside. Because often what can happen is one person wants the relationship more than the other in that moment. And that essentially means that the person who doesn't want it as much essentially has the power. And when they have the power, often the person who does want the relationship as much is going to push and push and push and chase and so on, and be giving off a very different energy towards the person who actually doesn't want the relationship as much. And so that's why you want to recognize that you're not going to get the outcome that you're looking for by coming across as really, really desperate or fearful or anxious and so on. In fact, it's either going to promote more guilt in him or it's going to force him to back off even more. You're wanting to make sure that there is space, that there is a little bit of a vacuum between the two of you for a period of time until you're actually able to reflect upon what are some of the things that you could have done better, what were some of the areas that you could have improved on, and so on. And what are the areas that you can actually focus on your own healing as well. All we can do is really trust that the other person is maybe not necessarily going to the same level of depth, but is taking the time to reflect upon the past, reflect upon the areas that they need to improve in as well. And what I also find is when we actually engage in some of that healing on the inside, it actually promotes healing in the other person. They start to notice some shifts that are going on. They start to notice some changes. But there is a level of cynicism and skepticism around all of this. They often see the wife making some changes and think, well, she's just only doing this because I'm walking away. She's not really serious about it. And this is where intention is key. If you're going to focus on your own growth, it has to be sincere and genuine for your own self. It's not about I'm going to try and change temporarily until he comes back and then I'm going to go back into my old patterns. I'm focusing purely on my growth and my healing because that is the most important part of my life. Because when we heal, when we grow, when we become the best versions of ourselves, then our life tends to become a reflection of that. So you have to really prioritize your own growth and your healing. Now, for those of you who are probably getting a little bit triggered by this, this is not about, well, he's the one that's gone off and, left and so on. You have to be the one to heal. It doesn't matter who's done what. We always have to focus on our own growth and our own transformation, regardless of what's happening in our lives. It is so important. If you want to grow your business, you grow you. If you want to improve your health, you grow you. If you want to improve your relationship, you grow you. It does not matter what area. You've got to focus on your own healing. And you want to really let go of any part of your brain that's saying, oh, I shouldn't have to do this. He was the one that went off and did this or did that and so on. That puts you into what we call a victim consciousness. Not a victim, but a victim consciousness. And it results in more pain and more suffering in the long run. And finally, it's about open and authentic communication between the two of you. So many times that I've heard from clients that when there is a separation that's occurred, they have communicated better than they have in years. Often there can be more intimacy than there has been in years as well, because both parties are actually being vulnerable and authentic and real and really sharing their truth. And I think it's a really important thing to allow yourself to really have that beautiful level of communication with them. Be authentic, be real, be true to what's important to you. Now, this is not about being critical about him. This is not about, going off at him and telling him all the things that he's done wrong and so on. It's about actually taking ownership of your part, but also making an honest commitment towards actually learning about the pain that he's also going through in that moment. Because if one party takes the lead, that then opens the pathway for the other individual to reciprocate back as well. And I find that when someone is actually being really authentic and speaking from the heart, not from the head, but from the heart, genuinely sharing if there are areas that they could have done better. So I've sort of taken some time to really reflect and had noticed that, I probably spent too much time doing this, I'd spent too much time doing that, or I didn't express the love in the way that I needed to, and the reason for that is X and Y and so on. And you explain some of that in a beautiful way, in a caring way, and you acknowledge, hey, look, I could have done this better and so on, then that can actually open up the pathway towards really beautiful communication with him. And there's a good chance when you do that, he's probably going to open up a bit more on that end as well. But as soon as both parties start attacking or getting defensive about things, it just doesn't work in the right way. You have to be as authentic and as honest as you possibly can. And I really believe when both parties start to do that, it can create a much, much better opportunity for future growth and future reconciliation as well. Remember, it's really crucial to respect your husband's decision at this moment in time. I know it's tempting to want to push it, to want to really reinforce the idea that, look, you guys are a beautiful couple and that you can make it work and all of that sort of stuff. And it's okay to hold those views. But the more you push, the more he's going to resist. And so that's why some of these points I've made so far in this video are so important to help you to create an environment where he knows that, you know, you're understanding and empathetic of where he's at on this path. And I believe that when we take a less of a forced approach and step into our own power, then that can actually really promote future healing and maximize your chance of being able to get him back. So I hope this all makes sense. If you've liked this video, make sure you hit that like button below. If you want to get more videos like this, hit that subscribe button. And do let me know what your biggest takeaway is from this video. If you've got any questions or comments, make sure you write them below and I'll respond to every single one of you. And if you connect with some of my material, you like my New Zealand accent and so on, then what I actually recommend you do is in the description section below, I'll put a link there to my free masterclass training. And that masterclass training is where I go through in depth the 3 steps that my client Sarah used to be able to save her marriage in less than 60 days. She's a remarkable woman, created some amazing shifts in her marriage in a really short space of time. And these 3 steps I know is going to help you to really move forward and really maximize your chances of creating the shifts that you want in your relationship or marriage. So once again, this is in the description section below. Just click on that link which just says register for the masterclass. And all you need to do is just enter your details in, come along with a pen and paper or whatever, write plenty of notes, and make sure you stick around to the very end and I'll give away a free gift that I know you're going to absolutely love. If you want to learn whether things can go back to normal after a separation, click this video above. Thank you so much, God bless, and I'll talk to you in the next video.